The day you think you know everything, the day you stop your growth or growing. Good evening, friends. Anthony here. In next 2 to 3 minutes, I'll be talking about how an average person thinks that he knows everything and he has everything, the knowledge or the possession, everything. And how a successful person always tries to be a student who keeps learning, be curious. I'll be talking about these two perspectives. And I'll also talk about one personal example in my beginning of my career, how I was, and then how I started to completely transformed by knowing how important is the learning. And I will call out for actions, four things which we can do so that from tomorrow onwards, these four things, when we change, how it is going to give a big transformation is in our life, and which a catchphrase I will conclude. So today I will be talking about the average person always thinks that he knows everything, and a successful person on the other hand, he thinks that never not to stop learning. So he wants to completely continuously keep learning, keep upgrading himself. Think about a moment someone says that I know everything, and he interrupts when someone wants to share some concepts. He argues. He also refuses to accept the difference of views. So what will happen to that situation, to the team? So it will be chaos, right? Or people will be thinking how to manage this person. Yes, my dear friends, when the same person who thinks that he knows everything, when he is put in a situation or put in a real-time situation, there he tries to struggle, he tries to find ways, and then he will be completely a failure. So there is an illusion of a knowledge which is very dangerous. People think that illusion of knowledge is the greatest obstacle for anyone to learn. So again, I'm talking about if someone thinks he knows everything, the few things which will happen to him, he will stop asking questions, because he thinks that he knows everything, and he will also feel that he is contented. And when he is contented, his learning stops, and obviously the growth will also stop. So it's like a cup which is already full. You can't pour any more stuff into it, right? Any more water into it. So on the other hand, when you see a successful person, so he is very curious, and he realizes that a lot of things, the more and more he tries to learn, or more and more he tries to observes or acquires or any new skills, immediately thinks I'm aware of few more things or many more things, and that makes him a continuous learner, and he upgrades his knowledge, he upgrades his skill, his personality changes, and thereby he adapts a lot of skills, and he starts growing in his life. So one good thing, or one very dangerous thing, what I understood was, when somebody says I know everything, it is overconfidence. Overconfidence is very dangerous. You can be confident, I think I can certainly learn, so that is confidence. When I say I know everything, that's overconfidence. That will lead to failure. So the same principle applies to everything in our life, like in relationships, and which will help us to improve. See, here in relationship, when we speak without listening, the relationship will certainly go for a toss. And likewise, in careers, when we are not curious to learn, we can't grow in our career. Similarly, like in the leadership, when the leadership is not able to listen to different perspectives, it cannot be a strong leadership, right? So my dear friends, there are four things which I thought I should ask you for a call out to action. But before that, let me give you share one example from my personal life. In the beginning of my career, I'm just talking about in the past. In the beginning, I was a kind of a person fresh from the college. I thought I know the knowledge. I mean, I had the best of the best knowledge, and I know the subject. I know the management principles. I know everything. So that is what was my thinking. When I got into the reality, then I understood whatever I studied. When I tried to apply here, it was something not going right or not going well. I was not able to really comprehend and then move. Then I started slowing down. I paused. I started looking at my seniors, how they are behaving, how they are adjusting to things, how they are trying to resolve problems, how they are trying to address the teams, how they are trying to bring the teams along together to a success. I was observing, and how continuously they are learning, how they are upgrading their skills. So when I started all this things which is happening around me, then I said, I think I'm going in a wrong direction. I stopped there, and then I started showing lot of curiosity for reading, learning things, or acquiring skills, or being with the team, or going along with the team. So when I started understanding all these things, my success rate was going really skyrocketing in my career life, and also in my personal life. So my dear friends, I wanted to talk about four things I said as a call out for action. So one is listen more than we speak from today. And secondly, we have to ask questions without fear. So questioning without fear is something which we need to really adopt and learn. And regardless of small or big or anyone, we have to be a learner. And fourth thing, be a learner, learn from anybody, anything small or big, that doesn't matter. And fourthly, remember, my dear friends, we should be always student, to keep learning. That curiousness should be there. So that will make us, more agile in terms of learning, more. We will spend time, and more we realize that we need to acquire more and more, and then we will add a lot of skill sets to ourself, and our growth rate will be extremely good. So call out for action is listen more from today, learn to be fearless in asking questions. Number 3, learn from little or big, doesn't matter. Learn from anyone, everyone, and be like a student, be curious. So on this note, I wanted to again conclude, average people will always behave as if they know everything, but the successful people will always be like a student, and they will never stop learning. On this note, thank you very much. Wish you all